I've been waiting for this day for a while because you are someone that's been on my mind since you had dropped the post about having like anxieties and living, under that condition. And when I read it, I just kind of seen the comments and I seen like a lot of people just respond. I'm pretty sure your inbox was blowing up. But yeah, it was just like, and then you did our show. You did the show that I had with the studio. You did a live, performance, which was really good, and everyone could tune into that as well. So on the Mixcloud, if you go to our links, you can go into Mixcloud and you can listen back to the old show that you did with Sweet Velvet Des. So, and I think it's one of the most listened
Oh,
to
that's
set.
dope. That's dope.
So yeah, and I
Nice
got a
film.
chance to listen back to it, and I was like, hell yeah, like, it was just such a good performance by yourself and Sweet Velvet Des. But just want to introduce Dub City Soulera. I'm not really good on the
The
Mexican
R.
slang.
Soulera. Just call me Dove. Just call me Dove.
Yeah, so I want to start with that. I know there's a lot of people probably going to tune in and see this, and because I've been getting blown up on my phone. But how did you get this name? How did that start? I think let's start there.
Well, Dub City is I'm from Wilmington. Like when we went to do the live show with you, and it's I think like a lot of other collectors, we represent where we come from, and my roots are really deep in Wilmington. I think I'm about sixth generation. So representing where I come from and family, I mean that means a lot to me, and that's my name. That's what I'm about. So and it was a little mix because I'm from my neighborhood, but I also wanted to give a shout out to that. So dub was a thing, and if you look at a lot of pictures of me, even my mama, you see us throwing up a W. So dub just kind of became a thing.
So Wilmington, I mean, so there's a lot of people that are going to see this. I've had some, followers from like all the way to like England, and watch these, interviews that I've been doing and getting to
Mhm.
know some of the local spinners around me. But for I guess for them and people that are around the world and people in different states, like what is it? What was Wilmington like? Was this like a happy town? Is this like you got to watch
I
your back?
wasn't, but Wilmington's really well known for being one of the port cities. Is where everything comes in through the docks and the founding of the railroads and whatnot, and that's the history there. But in time, it changed and it evolved, and it's hasn't always been the most popular place in LA to live.
Right. Okay. Now do you were in a gang? You got jumped in or?
Hey, we should go ahead and like on blast. Yeah, 14 years old. Yeah, I became from the east side. Yeah.
How did that happen? Is this like, friends in the neighborhood and you just grew up with some chicks and you guys are in school and it's like, hey, this is what we're doing,
No,
or
it doesn't happen like that. 2, 3 days, you just like totally,
right into it? We're going
yeah,
into
just
it.
ran into it.
We're going in. We're
I
bringing
left
out the
home.
front.
I left home at 14 years old.
Wow.
And I just kind of bounced around. I wasn't really like on the streets, but whoever took me in, or whatever friends or households were with it, um, that became that became home for the time being until my grandparents found out where I was staying and they took me in. But I think there's just a lot of love um, when it comes from that type of family. Might not be the most positive, but when there's people that surround you and support you and just love on you just the way you are, you can't help but gravitate towards that.
Wow. So you were kind of just bouncing around, and I mean, as far as her parents go, I mean, were they around or they kind
My
of just
parents, yeah, my parents were around. My dad was in and out of prison.
okay?
I think I'll share a record later, but when I was on your live, we ended it and I ended with the song. And that song was Make It With You by Joe Patan and Ralphie Pagan. And uh, that song reminds me a lot of my dad. I didn't meet my dad till I was 15. The prison life, the gang life. That's what he loved.
Hmm.
And so he wasn't always a dad. And God, I hope my mom don't watch this. No, she says she is, but my mom was from the neighborhood as well. My mom was a hustler, so there was a lot of people coming in and out of our house at the time.
Wow.
So I did have my parents, but it wasn't at the time uh, as good as a lot of other people's upbringings.
Okay. And now you mentioned that your father was like a bodybuilder. Was he into like? Is this from the like the?
So, like earlier when we were talking, my dad was a weightlifter.
Okay.
And actually, I was speaking of my stepdad, who raised me. He raised me since I was 8 years old, and there was a period where I was back and forth, on the streets and with my grandparents. And I think I moved back in with my mom and my stepdad, who really I didn't really know what it was to have a father or have that relationship until I was almost an adult. I think it was 18 years old when I went back home. And then it was 18 years old, and I'm an adult, but yet there's this little girl inside of me. And he became my dad from that moment on.
Wow.
But yeah, he was a weightlifter, and he still is. He's 76 years old with like a washboard stomach, man.
Dang. Wow. So what was like school like? I mean, so you're kind of back and forth bouncing around. I mean, was it a positive experience? I mean, did you have a bunch of friends that were, by your side that will take you in, or
Yeah.
were you kind of a loner?
I wasn't a loner. For whatever reason, I was always popular. I always had a lot of good friends. Uh, I went I went to private school. And I think sometimes we're the worst ones. But I
Yeah.
did. Yeah, my mom, no matter where I was at, she made sure that I had a good education, and I had a bus pass, and as long as I got on the bus and went to school, mom was okay with it.
Dang. So now one thing again, like I want to bring back to that post, what caught my attention to want to interview you was again the anxiety. So,
Yeah.
when did you kind of first feel, this was a thing for you, and how did you maybe react to, maybe one of your first I guess attacks, would you say?
So when I look back at it now as an adult, I realize that it started probably as young as 8 years old. But when I was able to actually recognize it and know that physically things didn't feel right, I was about 13, 14 years old. And
Mhm.
when I started to have full on like panic attacks to where like I'm rushing to the ER, I was about 18, 19 years old.
Okay. Wow. And I think this is something that is, I mean, to me, I guess looking on the outside, I mean, growing up, I don't really remember many people having panic attacks. I mean,
Hmm.
I think like I mentioned to you, I think I had panic attacks when I was a kid,
Hmm.
but it wasn't as severe. It was more of like maybe a social anxiety, but you don't really know how to describe it. And
Yeah.
then, as we're getting older, we're learning more about the body, we're learning more about the brain, we're learning more about, concussions, a lot of these different,
Hmm.
medical stuff. So was it like, were you able to like maybe explain to like someone like what was happening, and were they able to understand you at that time when you're so young?
The first time I had one, I was on the freeway.
Mm.
And I remember I had an 84 Cutlass, and I thought that I was getting nervous because some guys were following me from another neighborhood. And I remember like just like this increased like heart rate that I'm like, man, this isn't them following me. This is something else. Kind of felt a little bit like this out of body experience. And it was this overwhelming feeling of I'm not going to survive almost. And then there was those kind of feelings, like we talked earlier, and I shared some things about like childhood traumas. And in all honesty, when I went into this interview, I was prepared to be fully transparent and to be able to share at the core of who Angela is. And when I say, childhood traumas, and not thankfully, not everybody gets to experience that, but I share my story because so many people have, and I want people to go through a lot of the healing process I did. But those traumas come from different forms of abuse, from physical to sexual, emotional, and verbal abuses. And some people maybe have experienced one or two of those in a lifetime, but to say that you've experienced all of them, those are deeply rooted traumas that a lot of us have to work through as adults because we never actually got an opportunity to be children because we were in survival mode. And there's just such a lack of control. So when you're having an anxiety or you're having a panic attack, that's one of the things that you feel is a cluster of emotions where you lack control. And everybody's different. It ranges from heart palpitations to I'm going to scream at the top of my lungs. I physically want to run away. I used to think that if I can make it from the backyard to the front yard, I'll be safe when I would have anxiety attack. But it was just trying to change the atmosphere at the time from where you're at, so that you can feel some kind of relief. But it can vary for a lot of people. Some people it's heart palpitations and shaking, and almost feel like you're losing your mind when you're having one. They can be really scary.
Yeah, and I think I think that's again, it's becoming something that people are now speaking out about because
Yeah,
there's more research about it. So
yeah.
what changes have you seen over the years, like with people coming out? Like, was there friends that maybe that you had growing up or family members like, oh, you have this too, like was anything like that? Like any awakenings from like other friends or family that are having the same stuff that you
Um,
have?
I think for the longest time, I just thought there was something wrong with me, and that if I spoke on that, people would think that something was wrong with me, or it's almost like people could stare at you or look at you and see right through you, and there was some kind of like embarrassment or shame. I think because for me, very early on, I knew what was the cause of it, and it was those things that I wasn't ready yet to be open with, to share, or to expose. But I battled it for a long time by myself. I
Yeah.
didn't really have anybody until now that I'm an adult. People who say, I struggle with it, or I've had episodes, or some people who've had full blown on anxiety or panic attacks, or even been medicated or hospitalized for it. So there's different levels and degrees, but I noticed that the more that I'm open with it, that I leave a gateway for people to start sharing about theirs. And I think that's the biggest thing, is start to be transparent and open with it, so that we can all together work and help each other out through it.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think that, because I remember I had a friend that, would suffer from anxiety and they like throw her in the crazy house, like she was
Yeah.
really scared, because she didn't really know what was going on. I don't think anybody, no one really gave her a
Yeah.
chance. I think a lot of family and friends kind of threw her under the bus and just we're gonna throw her in the crazy house and just let
Yeah.
her let her be. But realistically, just needed, maybe some professional help or
Yeah.
maybe even some medication. Medications wise, are you taking any medication to help this, or we kind of
Um,
figured out a way to avoid medication?
I've always tried to find a way to avoid medication. I
Okay.
know myself. I know I have addicted personality, and I was actually afraid to take medication.
Okay.
Not for the anxiety reasons, but I knew, like I said, from an early age, what were my triggers, what were the causes and the traumas to my anxiety. And I opted more to find a natural way. So I started with anti-anxiety diets and remedies to start from the gut to the brain to help decrease anxiety. Lots of prayer, meditation, things that are great. There are self-help books and apps and things that help like that, but um I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself, but I know they haven't heard it, so I know you have, but I'll just
Yeah.
share. But like I said, it's getting to the root that causes it, and that's what I was looking for. I didn't want to band-aid it. I didn't want to smooth it over. I didn't want to deal with that at the surface, and I knew that getting to the heart of why I have it, which isn't the reason why everybody does have it, um was going to take a lot, and it was going to be painful. But the healing process is what I was seeking. So I had to dig a lot deeper than medication.
Yeah, and just hearing you from the outside, I mean, I don't know how many people have told you this, but I think you're pretty damn special to really take a look in the mirror because I think a lot of people, I mean, probably even myself, if I had this condition, I probably couldn't look in the mirror and try to figure that out. You know what I mean? I think that takes a lot of courage, for being like I used to, like I said, I used to know someone that, had, crazy anxiety attacks and it was very difficult life for them, but it was very hard to like get a grip,
Mhm,
and like
mhm.
really dig down and have to
Yeah,
face those demons because
yeah,
basically it's like facing, according to her, it's like facing like, maybe like a lion or a tiger like right in
yeah,
the face. So
yeah.
talk about like what's going through your mind, when these attacks happen. I mean, what if you can recall and kind of explain to people like what maybe these anxiety attacks feel like?
They feel like you're dying.
Mhm.
And that moment, just the duration of time just lasts over and over and over, to where you almost and these are just my experiences. Like
Mhm.
I've laid down, like I surrender to it. Like if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. And then minutes and hours and even days go by and you're like, oh, I'm still here. Um, I'm gonna be all right. Like I overcame that. And it was, Angela, what did you do during that time to help you overcome? And like you said, like a lion. And for me, one of the analogies a good friend gave me is like, you got to grab the bull by the horn. Say, Angela, like you're going to battle and you're going to have to find a way to fight back. It has a hold of you, but when are you going to get a grip on it? When are you going to have it? When are you going to tell anxiety, like, you can't have me today? You're not going to control um, just my daily thoughts. But, especially when anxiety starts to affect that, you're not functionable, you're paralyzed, you're not going out, you're not doing things, you're staying home for days. I'm going to tell you something, what everybody that a lot of people don't know about me is that I stood in my home for up to 1 year.
Wow.
Not left. I didn't drive a car. I didn't go to work. You're lucky if you got me to go to the front yard or the backyard, but I would not leave my house because I
Wow.
dreaded that something would happen to me if I left home, that I was safer. This was my safe place. And it took a lot of courage to start leaving home. But it was because you always felt like at any moment you were just going to crumble, that you were just going to die, and that everything would just emotionally and physically fall apart. I mean, the mind is powerful,
Yeah.
and it's for me, as a believer, as a Christian, I do meditate and I do pray, and I held on to a lot of scriptures that would tell me to get a hold of my thoughts and to take captive those things that are crossing my mind that are going to lead me to somewhere unsafe and somewhere that can be very dangerous. Because if you're not leaving your home and you're not functioning and you're not letting people in or pour into you, it can get really dark. And those thoughts, they can get really heavy, very
Yeah.
heavy.
And I feel like being around someone that had anxiety, like it was like so some of the stuff was like so petty. Like
Hmm.
I remember like, okay, so like we're at my house and outside I have like trees and like the sprinklers came on and it just triggered an anxiety attack, like boom. And I'm like, what? Like the sprinklers just turned on. So like, has there been times where it's like in your mind, like this is so petty, like I'm tripping on, or this
Yeah,
has triggered
yeah,
me to, like
yeah.
what?
I talk to
Give me an
myself a
example.
lot. I talk to myself a lot. And my grandfather one time told me, it's all right to talk to yourself. It's when you start answering yourself, you got a problem. But but I would have to talk to myself because a lot of people with anxiety, you get sensory overload really quick. Too much sound, just some things just annoy you that don't annoy other people. And that's because internally we're trying to, the brain, we're just trying to process a lot. So if we got a high tension of emotions, the smallest thing can set someone off. So
Man.
yeah, I mean, it may sound like it's just sprinklers, but yeah, it can annoy you. I mean, sometimes people's chewing, just like I want to reach over and
Yeah, like it was like a total like, what the fuck happened? Like what happened? Like, and it was like the sprinklers. I'm like, what do you mean the sprinklers? Like, and it just like boom, full
yeah,
on,
yeah.
just rage. And I was like, wow. So, I mean, do you have any recommendation if there's any books, apps, things that that you can recommend to people that may come across this interview, where they can go to and maybe get some help that you have help?
One of my favorites, as mentioned, is a book called The Anti-Anxiety Diet, and it's really how to get your gut to not produce as many acids that help trigger anxieties. We talked earlier about some foods, and shrimp's a big one for me, and dairy and caffeine. But I tell you right now, I'm drinking a Pepsi. Um, Sometimes I just like, now I got to the point to where like I challenge my anxiety. Like, I dare you to try to come against me because Angela's gonna have a bomb ass day regardless. But I love the anti-anxiety diet, and I do soul time meditation probably about 2 to 3 times a day. I actually set an alarm on my phone.
Mhm.
And it's just knowing not so much my triggers, but knowing when I can handle so much, and not to overwhelm myself, and just to know that I do have, regardless of whether I want to admit it or not, I do have limitations, and not to overstimulate myself.
And I think that was interesting that you said, like, you challenged the anxiety, which
Yeah,
again, people are so fearful of anxiety and having these attacks, and you're like, bring it on. Like,
yeah,
that's pretty intense.
yeah. Like you mentioned earlier, it's like, we all have internal demons, and they like to play with my anxiety to trigger me. And you got to come to a point to where you let yourself, mind, body, and soul know who's in charge.
Yeah. Friends and family now, now this is obviously kind of out of the bag, and it's
Yeah.
probably been out of the bag for a while with friends
Yeah.
and family, but is there any like friends that you have that you're like, man, I could really lean on this person, or do you recommend that someone reach out to a friend that
Well,
they can really trust when they have these?
in my Soul Time app, it has an option to where when you're struggling, that those who are closest to you will get an alert so that they can either meditate with you or they know to reach out to you. My best friend's on here, Dolores, and she's my go-to gal. She knows when I have anxiety. And sometimes I just telling her, I'll call over. I'm like, I'm freaking out right now, like I'm having anxiety. And she's just the best, you know. I know she's I love you, best friend. I love you, bestie. We met in the soul scene. We met at Holiday in LA a little over a year ago, and she's been a blessing in my life. And it's always great when you have someone, that outlet that you can share
Mhm.
wholeheartedly without judgment. And having a support system, whether it's one or 100, it's mandatory.
Yeah, yeah, that's really big, and that's what's cool about the soul scene that I've learned. I mean, it's like kind of funny. Like I'll see, some spinners, and I'm like, "How long have you known that person?" "Oh, we just met like a week ago." But
Yeah.
it's like the whole like love thing. There's a lot of love and hate
There's a
on the
lot of love there, and I'm telling you, it's spinning, going out there. It saved my life. I'm not gonna lie. And it is a family. It's a unity within itself. There's people from different neighborhoods that will rock each other's merch. And when I see people sporting mine in the dub, and it's like, man, like Goober, like you got Artesia all over that, all over that thing, but we all do, from Northeast LA to whatever neighborhood somebody's from. We all represent and take care of one another.
Nice. I want to jump into just, I always love an origin story, like
Yeah.
where everyone kind of came from. Everyone's, in this soul scene. I know it's not a huge, huge, huge like group, but it's pretty nice size. And if you're around it and if you're in it, it's really cool. But how did you kind of get started into the soul scene? And if you want to go way deep into that story, I think people will have to strap on the seatbelt right now.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah,
strap
and
on
for
the
a
seatbelt,
lot of people
everybody.
who are close to me, and they
Mhm.
know, like I said, again, I went in with knowing I'm gonna come with complete transparency, but that's just
Right.
Angela.
Yeah.
In 2009, I caught a case, and I was looking at 20 years in prison. And I fought my case for almost 1 year, where I was charged for accessory to murder after the fact.
Whew.
And my co-defendant, who was my brother, got sentenced to 86 years, 186 years. My bad.
Wow.
And I was looking at 20, and I was on probation for assault and battery. So Angela wasn't a good girl. I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say I am now, but you know what I mean. I've changed a lot. I've changed my ways a lot. Um, you, and I did a prison term. I was looking at 20 years. By the time I was done, I did 2 years,
Okay.
which was a complete blessing, because I really thought that, it was one of those moments like you're just gonna um, lock the door and throw away the key. And my stepdad, who had raised me off and on throughout my childhood, but really became dad like at 18. And I had never called him dad, but he was dad. And we had a lot of defining moments from 18 years old to almost 32 when I caught this case. And him and my mom would come to court on my behalf, and so would my biological dad, because for a while he was out. And um, there's just I'm going to sidetrack a little bit. You really know when you do some time who's there for you,
Right.
and you're really at the core of one of the most oppressing times of your life. And if you can overcome it, man, it takes a strong person. I remember getting out, my mom picking me up from the LA Union station, and I walked into my parents' doors because I didn't have anywhere to go. I'm legit coming home with a box that just has my belongings from my time there, and an envelope with my gate money off of a Greyhound. So I walk in, and I'm so excited, to see my kids. I had two boys at the time, my mom and my dad. And my dad stood at the end of the stairs, and he looked at me, and he put his arm out, and he says, "No, not yet. I'm not ready." And it hurt, because I'm thinking I'm gonna have this like welcome home.
Mm.
And I'm living in their household, and maybe like 2 or 3 days later, I get a good morning, but dad can't make eye contact with me, and my mom says, "Just give him time, for what you went to prison for." Really, really not only shocked and hurt him, but dad's well known in the neighborhood, and a lot of people went to dad. Dad played horseshoes, weightlift, had his low rider, so he was always out. So it was a neighborhood talk, and of course, there comes embarrassment and there comes shame, and he really got tired of hearing it. But jumping into it, he called me into the garage, which was it still is his weightlifting room, because at 76, he still works out. If you look at him, totally wouldn't think that he was any older than like 50. And he called me in and he said, "I want you to have a seat." So I'm sitting on a weight bench, like, we working out or what? And he says, "Angela, when I thought about you being there, and as much as I didn't want you to be there, I knew you had to be. And all I can do is pray and hope that God would get a hold of you and make some changes, and do what he needed to do so that you come out the Angela that I know that you can be." But I looked back and I thought, where did I go wrong? And I had a lot of moments to where I said, yeah, we really didn't do as well as thought we did as parents. And he goes, but I thought out of all of my kids, you would be the one who would just, like, I don't know, become a doctor or a lawyer. Like, you love the streets, you love the neighborhood, but you were just, man, you were just a bookworm. Low key, I'm a nerd, y'all. Like, if you look over here, like, you just see all of my books, right? I'm a
Wow.
nerd. This whole place is full of books, this room. But dad said, "You know what, Angela? Every thought that I had of you, every memory I had of you was you as a kid, like, as young as 8 years old, while I was working out, changing out my 45s on my record player in the garage."
Hmm.
And I won't tell people, well, I'm gonna tell people. We used to clean our records with a cotton ball with alcohol. I wouldn't dare put a cotton ball with alcohol on my records now. But he goes, "My greatest memories of you were switching out my records." And dad was a big doo-wopper. And that was just him. Like, he just sang doo-wop. I mean, that meant, man, his feet just walked to doo-wop. And he says, "And I found something. I don't have a record player no more, but I want you to have these." And it was a stack of 45s. And it was all of his favorite, like, doo-wop records that somehow didn't get ruined between all of the garage cleanings and stuff like that. And he says, "They just remind me of you. And I want you to have them." And I took them, like, wow, this is dope. What am I supposed to do with this? Like, I don't have a record player, and I don't know all of these, but I'm looking at the names of them, and I started YouTubing them and looking them up, and I was having, like, man, like, epiphany after epiphany, like, just moments of growing up and being with dad and realizing, like, man, this is a soulful moment that I shared with him. And that's how dad and I reconciled, was his records. And I'm not lying. Like, a week later, I went to a friend's house, and my friend was like, "Hey, you guys cool with me busting out my turntables and playing some music?" His father had passed away, and he had all of these Spanish LPs. And I mean, I look like this, but I don't speak Spanish. But I was like,
Oh.
yeah, like, jam away, go for it. So he's playing all of his records, and I'm like, "Hey, you know what? My dad gave me some records just recently."
Mm.
And it was like, "Hey, you want to go on a record dig?" And I'm like, "What? Like, we're doing what?" Like, "Yeah, let's go record digging." I was like, what does record digging mean? But that's what ignited the passion to collect to where I am today, is with dad. And it was a defining, a healing moment. And
Mm.
listening to all those songs, man, it just brought back memories. It really healed. It really, really helped heal our relationship and me in my transition coming home.
Man, that's really incredible. I want to rewind the tape because I think for people that don't know, I mean, so when you're going to jail, or did you know you're going to go to jail? Were you
Oh, yeah,
thinking
I knew I
like,
was going to jail. The helicopters were flying over me. I
okay,
was
so
going
when
I
you're,
was going to jail.
so if you want to explain, like, if it's okay with you, like what kind of happened? So people, I mean, you're going to jail for murder, but you're not the person that's murdering the
No.
person. So how did this kind of happen? And I guess what happened, with the, I guess, the scenario there.
Yeah. Um, so there was just this local bar hangout that we all went to go watch a Laker game, and there was some friends and some family, really intimate, really only like 10, 11 of us. The
Mm.
guy that I was dating at the time was a big guy, you know, about 6'4", and gentle giant, just really, really loving. And you know, it's a lot of times alcohol gets the best of people. And he wasn't probably the nicest to me at that moment, but I knew that's not him. It was just the alcohol, and he probably wasn't his true self. But my brother witnessed that, and my brother was just like, "Man, my sister is like one of the dopest G's that I know. Like Angela bows down to no one. Angela's on the other side of the neighborhood, like fearless, like nobody talks to her like that." And there was a confrontation and words were exchanged. And, you know, there's a lot of like, hey guys, like settle down. And it just kept repeating itself out throughout the night. And it's made because of this situation, I'm more aware. I'm more I know when to walk. I know when to know a situation is probably going to escalate, and no situation is worth anyone losing their life over.
Mm.
But there was a physical altercation, and my brother is a small dude and really just couldn't handle, I guess, you know, like we hear stories, not everybody can handle an old fashioned ass whooping. And
Mhm.
he pulled out a gun and he shot him about 5 times and killed him.
E This is in front of everybody, right? Like, it just
Yeah.
I guess the people
Yeah.
that were in the bar?
Yeah. So people were there. There were cameras that witnessed it. It wasn't nothing that, you know, was ever premeditated or planned. And I didn't even know he had a gun on him. I probably should have known, 'cause just the lifestyle. And he was fresh out of prison himself.
Mm.
And he took a life. And because we all left the scene of the crime, everybody who left was charged
Man.
for being accessories or some form of accessory for not staying.
Now, are you freaking out when this is happening? I mean, this is your boo right here that just got
Yeah, you know
fired with
what?
the chest. You freaking
To
out?
this day, I still remember, you know, being fearful for my own life. Being told that you need to get in the car, you know, a gun put to my side here, and to drive. And I remember my hands and my legs, not even just my hands, my arms, shaking uncontrollably, uncontrollably, just thinking like, there's no way this just happened, and this is how I'm going to go out too. And because there was other people in the car and they made threats, you just almost at that moment just like, I gotta do what I have to do to survive. And I gotta just downplay the situation, breathe through the situation, because I gotta find a way to make it home, or make it through another day, to find my way to at some point separate to where Angela still is alive.
Yeah. So, okay, so we walk away from the situation. I mean, do the cops show up to the house, or
Um,
we on the run
being
for a
the
while?
chola that I was, Angela's license plate said we met her, so it wasn't hard for somebody to read we met her. And so it really quick, just on the drive, the helicopters were already ahead of us. And by the
Wow.
time I got to my house, which transits into sheriff's jurisdiction coming out of Harbor Division, LAPD, we had both sides of the sheriffs and LAPD and helicopters. No one was going anywhere. And we knew that. I knew that. I was just hoping for the moment to hurry and be over. But of course, when you got a murder suspect in the car, um, anything can happen. And I was thinking, man, they're going to shoot us, and we're going to be on the news. All right.
Yeah.
Um, so it was one of those moments like, man, I just can't wait to turn this car off. And,
Man.
and as soon as someone, a cop car got close enough to alert that, yeah, you are being pulled over, it got really ugly. It got really ugly. So uh, honestly, we thought I was pretty sure we were all going to die that night, because there's someone with a gun in a car, and cops aren't very casual about that. So
Man. So, for me personally, there would probably be logs coming out of my my pants at that point, like, "Okay, this is it." I mean, what's going
yeah,
through your head? So, obviously someone's in the car, but what's going through your mind right there? Like, this is I mean, obviously, like, this is it, but, like, man, like, I didn't get to do this, or, like, what's my life gonna be? Or is it just, like, my kids? Like, what was kinda running through your
my
mind?
my big thing was my kids.
Yeah.
I had 2 boys. They were at the time 11 and no, maybe 10 and 4 years old. And
Oh,
I was just thinking like they're gonna grow up without me.
wow. So now so they got the silver bracelets on you, you're pulling into the station. I mean, now you're in the cell. I mean, what's going on? Like, so we know that there's like an anxiety background there. So how is the cell? Is that helpful? Is that worse? Did you get help?
One of the things that I tell myself is it's such the kicker with anxiety. It comes when nothing is happening. It
Mhm.
comes when you're just like chilling, watching a movie, in the shower, having a meal, like sprinkler setting off. And here there's moments that are truly defining like I should be losing my shit. And I'm not. And I was really calm.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I still can't understand why a lot of times I've been in very traumatic situations and I am chill. And
Hmm.
then nothing's happening. And that's when anxiety likes to get the best of you. But I was pretty calm, which probably was a little suspect to the cops, but it was just because I surrendered to the moment. And that's what I've learned to do with when it comes to anxiety is just not that you give it a headway or the lead, but I'm just going to surrender to this moment, allow myself to process it,
Mhm.
because I'm in control of my thought process and how I'm going to handle things, and just breathe through it and allow and trust that things will work out in your favor regardless of my situation. And so it was one of those times where I had to stay as composed as I could.
Yeah. So what do you okay, so I've never been to jail, but like what do you learn about yourself, as you're going through this process? You don't you're so they give you 2 years, right? The
Mhm.
judges hit the gavel and you got two. I mean, what life changes do you had to make maybe mentally or even physically to do 2 years? How did what changes or
It wasn't in anything physical or mental. It was spiritual for me.
Mhm.
I remember I got saddled up with a girl who's so dope. Like to this day, she was looking at two murder charges, two
Wow.
capital murders actually. And we're still friends. She's finally out.
Wow.
So I get saddled up for her, and she just had this heart of gold, man. She just wanted to give me everything. And I was just like, yeah, I'm out of here like any day. Cause in my heart of hearts, like I didn't commit any actual crime.
Yeah.
Um, and she did one of those, like, so do you know the Lord? And I was like, ah, you gotta be kidding me.
Here we go.
Here we go. I got a jailhouse Christian in the house. And then I stood there and I said, "Yeah, you know what? I've done the church thing. Like, I got saved at 20 something. I got baptized, and like I've done that, girl." As if it were um like if it was some kind of fad or a phase. And I was
Mm.
like, "Yeah." She's like, "Hey, well, if you never want to like, read with me, do a Bible study with me, meet with the chaplain." And I was like, "Oh God." And that's just the truth. And I can laugh about it now because God really did get a hold of me while I was there. And I didn't like it because it was crazy uncomfortable. It was hard, but it was, one of those things I said earlier. My dad said, "I hope God gets a hold of you while you're there." And it's those prayers that people want you to have defining moments on reflection of who you are, and truly like this is not what Angela was created for. And
Mm.
there's a purpose for me, and I got more work to do on the outside. That this is not who I am. This is not what I'm made of. But of course, it's very defining. And when you allow yourself to just have that kind of spiritual awakening, um, so many things can happen. So many things can happen. And I can honestly say that I wasn't having an anxiety while I was there. And I meant that we were on lockdowns. There were days like those doors didn't open. Like, it's 2 days and we ain't showered up in here yet. But or court date after court date after court date. And truly just God's peace, man, it covers you, and there's no explanation. There's no way to describe it.
Wow.
And really that's the truth of how I got through my time.
Wow. And now the situation with like, I mean, was there any like good times in there? Like,
Oh, there was lots of good times.
it
Won't
was
lie to you. I mean, I'd be lying to say um that it was all bad for the reason that I was there. There's nothing I've ever been proud of to
yeah.
be there or to brag like, oh yeah, I've done some time. Because for a while there was a lot of shame that followed me with that, because it shouldn't have taken someone to lose their life for me to get a hold of my life. But there were a lot of good times because you make the best of it. You really,
Yeah.
really do. And there's people in there who desire to be loved on and really have gone through a lot of the stuff that you have done, been through. Um, if I can share, there was this moment that I think it was like a church service, but someone came to share a little bit of their life. It was a woman writing a book, and she shared about being molested as small as 2 years old. And maybe there was like seven girls in the front row, and she said, I'm just going to ask my front row if they're open enough in sharing by just raising their hand. How many of you women were molested or sexually assaulted as a child? Because I can guarantee at least 4 or 5 of you are. And that whole row raised their hand.
Whoa.
I'm in that row, and none of us hesitated. And she said 4 out of 5 women incarcerated have been victims of molestation, of sexual assault, of rape, or some kind of sexual violent crime in their life. And I want you guys to get to the heart and to the root of why you carry a lot of the heaviness that you carry that you shouldn't be. And probably a lot of you struggle with anxiety. And I was just like, I like nearly fell on the floor. Like
reading
nearly,
your
like,
mind.
yeah. And I remember sitting there, like trying to remember her name. Cause like when I get out, I'm going to read that book. And,
Wow.
but those were like so many defining moments while you're there. But a lot of people have gone through a lot of the stuff that you went through, and you just gravitate and just the best you can try to help one another heal. But there was a lot of good times in there. There was a lot of fun. And I had somebody in my neighborhood who just knew that I loved, oldies, and I could always call and say, hey, can you send me lyrics to a song? And I'm like, hey, guess what? I got a package. I got an envelope, full of songs, because you start to forget things while you're there, because you're losing, like you're being desensitized. You're
Yeah.
losing. That's why we make crazy spreads, because like flavor is just different in there.
We gotta talk about
Um,
spreads after your comments here.
yeah. So I make a good tamale spread, and so music was like key. And I remember there was this one time, and I go to it all the time. Bandini knows this one. Because I shared this with him. You get treated like crap in there, like you already didn't get treated in crap on the outside. But we were waiting, to eat, and we were all lined up. And I have a phobia of heights. And so tell me why Angela's bunked on the top bunk on the top tier. Like, man, that was hard for me. But I remember we got to the top of the stairs, and I was right at the top, and I'm thinking like, oh man, how much longer is this gonna take? Like, I don't even want to eat anymore. And we're all lined up, and I don't know how many girls. There's like 100, but we're up this high staircase and all the way up to the top tier, just waiting. These COs were just having crappy days, and they have crappy days. It's easy to take it out on us. And everybody just waiting to go to chow. And this girl at the bottom of the stairs said, man, why you got to treat us so bad? And another girl started singing the song. God, why can't I think of the artist? Like, why you treat me so bad? Help me. Club Nouveau, right?
Yeah.
Is it Club
Why
Nouveau?
you treat me so bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she starts singing this, and she has this like amazing voice. And next thing you know, that whole module singing that song, like word for word. And I'm thinking like, nobody wants to eat no more. Everybody just wants to sing, and like
Yeah.
singing and moments of having song lyrics, man. Like music is soulful. Music is healing. Music will carry you through a moment,
Yeah.
It just is, man. And music got me through a lot next to the Lord, like God first. But music really got me through a lot in there.
Now, is there music that you can download in there, or like how
In
do they?
prison, yes, but I did 1 year in the county before I went upstate, and the
Okay.
county you have like nada. You
Wow.
got you got nothing. You got nothing at all.
Yeah, like the
You don't
sugar
even go,
free,
you're not
like
even going outside. You're not, yeah. At least Alec, County for women, Linwood. You're not going anywhere.
wow. Now, okay, so like me going into jail, like I have like a J-Lo booty, like the perkiest ass. That's why my name is Guns and Buns. If no one, if anybody's watching this and sees my name, that's why. But I wouldn't last obviously more than 2 seconds in there. Was there anybody or any group of people in there like that would try to take advantage of you? Like the moment they see you in
Um,
there, is there those evil types of people in
You
there?
know
Or
what? There's,
yeah.
I tell people that type of evil does exist. A lot of people have predatory mindsets.
Uh-huh.
Um, the truth is, I'm sure it happens a lot in men's, but women get raped. And you see it, and it's hard, but there's not a whole lot you can say or do about it.
Hmm.
I've seen, dang, I feel like I'm being like on blast right now. You'll see COs, have relationships with inmates, and they condone a lot. It just depends where you're at. But it's to me, it's not ever about, keeping your head down and doing your time privately or quietly.
Hmm.
Um, but just doing it right.
Dang. So now that you get out, you get these back to, back to like you get out, you get these records,
Mhm.
friends are having you dig. And are you just kind of like, hey, I'm gonna leave this in the past and it's records and Jesus from here on out, or
It's
what?
still record in Jesus, baby.
Nice. So the stack. Now you mentioned to me in previous talks that so your stepfather, right? He gives
Yeah.
you the stack, and this is a stack of doo-wop, really good songs. But you haven't played this live. This is
No.
something that's private
Yeah.
collection. Is there
Yeah.
any point in time that we may hear these doo-wop songs from you, like live? Would it ever? What would I guess
You
compel
know
you to
what?
play these?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I dig your show. I do. I dig it. There's somebody's show that I said if I ever get honored to play on,
Yeah,
that's where I'm gonna play on.
on my show.
No, I
Oh,
like your show, but it's
I
another
was
show.
gonna say, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's
Am
another
I
show.
getting
It's
blamed?
another show. I dig yours. I dig
Okay.
yours.
Okay.
But somebody has a show where you get to play at least like 2, 3 hours of your stuff. And I'm not gonna say it. Not gonna say
Okay.
his name. Not gonna say his name. But I said if I ever get an invitation to his show,
Okay.
um, I'll play him there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that would be really cool. And now I also want to talk about you're a reggae fan, right? And
Yes.
do people know
Yes.
this, or
A
is
lot
this
of
more
people
low
don't. A lot
key?
of people don't. I'm a big reggae lover. I've been to, man. We were sharing earlier. Man, more reggae shows than I can even count. I think was Wax Major on here? I thought I saw him. We
Uh
had a conversation about this a while back at the Gardena VFW about some dope reggae records that are out there that hit. Yeah.
yeah, like so those records, and I don't know, maybe you probably know better than I would. As far as for the soul, like the soul oldies, obviously it's
Yeah.
wild. Like those
Yeah.
records are climbing up in price. I think I seen one, and I don't even know if it was a joke. It could have been, but it was like $7,000 for a $45,000 shipping. But I think the reggae records are just as rare, right? Aren't those just as expensive
There
as
there are
soul
there are some. I think it's just finding it. Oh, he is there. I do see him. But me personally, like we were sharing earlier, like Barrington Levy, man,
Yeah.
he's one of my favorites. Buju, but I've seen a lot of reggae artists over the year at the Dub, which just recently I heard didn't close, but they moved to another location and they were in
What?
LA at the Echoplex. Yeah, the whole like
Oh,
pandemic criteria stuff that needs to be met to have functions like that. It changed, but I used to see Barrington Levy every year in November there, and Don Penn and Yellow Man and um gosh, like Marsha Griffith, like those, man. This is taking me back to those moments, but I loved it. I loved it there. But yeah, big reggae. I mean, I grew up. My dad played always doo-wop. My mom
uh,
was a big deep soul lover. So I was always with like that Laverne Baker, that Etta James kind of vibe from mom. Um, but growing up, it was for me like reggae was huge. That was huge for me. Still is. Still love it.
yeah,
And they
very.
got some like reggae oldie stuff out there too. And I
Uh,
don't know if that's like really my thing. Because I think the two genres should just kind of stay a little bit separate, but that's just Angela's opinion. But no, I do love some reggae.
I always love when I can't remember who it was. It was Yaya Bird. She came in on the show and she was
Wow,
playing
she's dope.
like, yeah, she was playing like the remixes of like
Uh-huh.
oldies, but like the reggae versions. And I was
Mhm.
like, ooh, like those are so cool.
Yeah.
I like listening to those.
Yeah, I got an opportunity to sing
Oh,
with her in San Diego at the Soul Shack.
okay. Yeah, dude. That girl is so cool.
Yeah, she
And she was gracious enough to come all the way down from San Diego,
dope.
do the show through a killer set. It was fun. And I love that music. Like it just the thing about reggae, it's like oldies, there's like some happy oldies, right?
Yeah.
They kind of get you in a good mood. Then there's like the tear in your beer, you know, tear and crying over my girl right now. But like reggae just always like puts you like in the right spot.
Yeah.
Like it
It
just
like
like,
hits the soul. I know.
yeah, I love that music. What else is I was gonna talk about with you? Um, so performing, performing is a big thing, even for myself. Like every time I perform, like right now, it's like I even feel like Sunday's coming, and it's like it's
Yeah.
coming, and then it's like the hour of the
Yeah.
15 minutes of it's like this countdown, like this.
Yeah.
Oh, do you get that?
I
Like,
do. I do.
does it give you a rush though?
It does. I mean, but it's like a good anxiety, you know,
Yeah.
it's like a good pressure. So I did a set way back Wednesday at the Paramount American Legion just this weekend with like Goober and Dr. Steph and Susie and Danny Glicks. And it was dope. Like if you guys have not been there, that is like the happening place to be right now.
It's a good
It was
time.
it was so packed, but I kind of felt like it had been a while since I had like dropped a set. And I
Mhm.
remember thinking like, man, I'm getting nervous. I'm getting a little flushed. And then you know what? You see like someone that you'll play a song and they connect with and it resonates with them. And they're looking at you and they're singing it like you wrote that song for them. And it's just like all that just goes out the window, you know, and you just start connecting with people and it feels good. It feels good. So then anxiety starts to like diffuse.
Yeah, I think for my anxiety, like I'll have it and I just like, man, I gotta like piss or I get like fucking like really anxious. I'm like walking around pacing. And then once I go on, I think like once the first song hits, I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm good. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm good. And then of course, yeah, like you said, you hear like the O's and ahs and whenever
Yeah.
song drops, you're like, woo, all right, I'm good now. Like here
Yeah.
we go, here we go.
Yep. Exactly.
Um, so the reason why you're on also as well, you're going to be with us on Sunday. We do
Yeah.
Boogie Down Sunday,
Maybe
which
down
I was
Sundays.
really, yeah, really excited for that. This is at McGay, so everyone that's tuned in, hopefully that you guys can join us and check her set out. That's going to be really cool. I'm hoping that you'll bust out some reggae and some
Hey, maybe.
stuff that you want to play. We kind of do something different. We do oldies, but we do more like hip hop, funk, 80s, 90s. We really mix it up. So we kind of have other DJs come in and do their thing,
Hmm.
whatever they want to do. And just really a good time. It's kind of become a thing. And it's crazy. It's like on Sunday, but it just cracks. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited to see your
Yeah.
set. And like I said, if you guys haven't checked out on the Universal Groove Mixcloud, there's a set on there, Dub and also Sweet Velvet Des. You could listen back to all the recordings there. But theirs is like one of the most popular. They do a lot of oldies, modern soul. So it's
Hmm.
really, really cool to see. Um, what else do you want to bring up? Do you have any other shows coming up at all?
Yeah, we got I have it here if anybody could see this, but Hook, Line, and Sinker, Goober's Drop, his record release.
Mhm.
And also his 30th birthday. I'm gonna play a set there at McGay's for his birthday.
I want to go to this because I want to see
You
you get
gotta go.
down.
You gotta
I
go.
want to see everyone get down there. What do you love about Goober? Goober's got like a really big fan base. I think, and I'm gonna say this, and I don't care. Is my cousins all have big crushes on Goober,
I
huge
think a
crushes.
lot of ladies do. I think a lot of ladies do. You know, for me, Goober's relatable. You know, he's soulful, he's relatable, he's with it, he's straightforward, and he offers a lot of love, you know, not just for his quote unquote fan base, for those who have genuine friendships with him. He's definitely someone that like if I need to talk to somebody, I can, and he's straightforward. He'll tell you how it is. Yeah.
Nice. How long have you guys been friends?
I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years.
Nice. And then you have his picture in the background. This is a new picture,
Yeah,
right?
that well, because I'm gonna drop my boy's thing on on here for Thursday. So I had to give him a shout out. So yeah.
Nice. What records I know you pulled a couple records. Do you want to talk about some of the records that you have
Yeah.
that are important to you?
One that I really, really wish that I had with me, because we shared about, just some songs that are just defining for me. I mentioned that my mom was big on like deep soul, but there's this song. I have the record, just not with me. It's called "Soul on Fire" by Laverne Baker, and that song just, man, one day I gotta play it. I think sometimes we don't play it because we want to play what's like hip and popular and what we think people want to hear, but over the years I've learned just to play from my heart and to play from my soul. And if people feel it from you, it's gonna reach them, whether it's one that they know or not. I wish I had that record to show you, but we had I brought up earlier my Ralphie Bagan. Had to bring it out, man. I had to pull it out of my box. Make it with you.
Oh, I love that song.
Um, my biological dad. This week will be 4 years that he passed away.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I remember being 15 years old, and I was playing this that the I think it's called Con Amor, but a tape. And so we're all like I'm dating myself, like a tape player.
I
But
love those tapes. I wish I had my old tapes, to be
yeah,
honest.
I do have a box of some old school tapes, but I had
Lucky.
this tape, and that song was playing, and the phone rang, and I answered it, and I said, I'm living with my grandparents. I'm like, hello, and I hear Angela, and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, Mija, whatever you do, don't hang up. And like in the core of all of me, I knew it was my dad.
Wow.
And I hadn't seen my dad since I was 2 years old. I hadn't heard from him.
Wow.
And I freaked out. I panicked. And again, dating myself, I the phone on the wall. I slammed the phone down. And I like, oh my gosh, like I kind of freaked out. And the phone rang again. And I answered it. And he was like, Angela, please don't hang up. And I said, okay. And it's like, it's me, your dad. Like, I'm out. I think my dad had did like 9 years at the time. And I'd love to see you. And I was like, see you? Like, to me, it was more like meet me or meet you, because I went all these years without him. But that song was playing, and that song always reminds me of dad. And it seems like whenever I talk about him, it like somewhere I'll just randomly hear it. And so this is the week of the anniversary of his passing. But when I
Oh,
ended
wow.
my set with Sweet Velvet Des, I played that. I played that for him.
Yeah.
So that one that's a go-to. That's a must from time to time when I'm in my, emotions. But yeah.
Nice. Any other records that you have that are really special to you?
Yeah, and I'm going to try to say it without being emotional and crying. But I don't know if you guys can see it, but right there. That's my late husband. Next month will be 2 years that he passed away of liver cancer.
Wow.
And we were told that he had 6 months to a year to live, but it turned out that he only lived maybe about 2 months from his diagnosis. And it was quick, but there was 2 months of lots of sharing, a lot of late nights. He went into terminal agitation, so he didn't sleep very much. He had a lot of insomnia. I like catnapped whenever I can catnap, as his caregiver at the time. But we shared a lot, the what I want from you for you out of life, what my expectations are. Well, oh, this is hard.
Yeah.
What I want for you. But he was in the hospital at one point, and he told everybody in the hospital, because this man, he loved oldies. Like, my husband was gangsta, man. Like, there wasn't a day he didn't wear a Pendleton. And
Nice.
but he was just an amazing man overall. But he had stopped everybody in the hospital room because we knew he was going to pass. He had made the choice to pass away at home, and so he was going to go home with the hospice nurse. And he says, there's a lot of songs that I love, and a lot of songs that have a lot of memories for me and Angela, but there's one that I want everyone to hear. And he played My Everything You Are by Mark IV. And man, I had heard it, and a friend had introduced him to it. It was like new to him as well. And it just became our goodbye song. So for probably about the first year after he passed away, I ended every set with that song. I ended it. And one of the beautiful things about the Soul family is they're there to wrap themselves around you no matter what you're going through. And I remember walking in to McGay's. Man, McGay's is a spot. Dang it, Gabriel, you got me crying.
No, it's not good. I mean, man, hey, well, I mean, I hate to cut you off, but it's like, for most people, I think, even like for myself, like I haven't lost a parent. I've lost some
Mhm.
grandparents, and that's kind of like what we go through in life. I've never lost like a girlfriend or I've never been married, but I mean, not many people go through that,
Yeah,
and been through all the things that you've been through. I mean, that's just it's very hard. I can only imagine losing like your best friend
yeah,
and trying to get through it. But he has been basically your inspiration to keep
yeah,
going forward,
yeah.
right?
And he said, every time you hear a song that you never heard before, that's me from heaven sending it to you. So make sure you get that record.
Nice.
And he was always about it. And I remember being at McGay's, and just the culture of us as Chicanos, like everybody comes in with a Pendleton and 501s and those red wing boots, right? And that was his attire. And I said to myself, man, if one more guy comes in looking like Neto, like I'm gonna lose it. And I remember I was with Dolores and my homegirl Licha, and I went to the bathroom to kind of like take a couple of deep breaths, gather my composure, and like I'm gonna go back out there. And as soon as, man, God sent, as soon as I went out there, one of the guys from OC Soul played that song
Oh.
as I was coming back to my seat.
Oh.
And I was just like, no, this isn't happening. Like, but at the same moment, like I said, it was like God sent. And I heard his voice, like, remember when I said, I'm going to be sending these songs from heaven? And a couple of my soul brothers that knew the song and knew that connection with us stood up. And it was like, man, we just all sang it, you know?
Dang.
And so I love my soul family. I love what this music can bring to so many of us, whether it's a healing moment or whatever we may need at that moment, it brings it. It brings it. And if I can give it back, I'm with it.
Yeah. And I mean, there's been people on here, obviously sharing their comments. We really appreciate that. I mean, there's a lot of love in this chat room right now, which is awesome. Like it's really, I mean, music kind of like puts us all together, and that's what I love
Yeah,
about doing these shows and, doing the interviews. I mean, ultimately, we all love music, and it brings us to moments and people and
yeah,
memories that we've had, and it keeps it like right there,
yeah.
like it keeps it right there. There's songs that I had a cousin that was very close to me, we were like really the same age. She passed away at a very young age, but when I hear what's that song? Oh, I hear it, I freaking just that Maisie Star, that it's like I can't remember what it's called. It's a Maisie Star song. It's like her main song. But I hear that fucking song and I like instantly start crying. Like I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, like I
yeah.
can't even
It
listen
just
to that.
hits.
Yeah, so I
It
know
hits.
it's music is just can take you like so many different places. And that's what I
Absolutely.
love about doing Boogie Down Sunday, because we play a lot of like the throwback stuff, and it's
Yeah,
always cool to like, man, I remember hearing this song in like third grade, or I remember hearing this song in like, junior high, and it just brings you back to those times. So I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
So I want to wrap this up. I want to say to you, I mean, I really appreciate you kind of putting your heart out there on the line. And I'm glad that you're getting this off your chest. And I'm glad that this will probably, go on, and people will be able to look back at this interview and get to know you better. And maybe when they see you, you'll get like that extra big hug, and
Mhm.
that extra big kiss. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you're doing this. And again, we'll be out there Boogie Down Sunday. We're gonna have it indoors, so don't worry about the water, the rain. We'll have it inside, and so we're gonna be just making it crack. Dub City will be there, and I'll be there. Bandini, let me see this lineup. Who we got in the lineup? So it's you,
Leo Styles,
Leo
Lito.
Styles. He's got some really good stuff. He came
Yeah.
and he did a show with us. He did the toy drive with us, which was really cool, and that was really fun. Let me go on this freaking thing right now. I'm trying to go through all my tags here. I know I was tagged in something. Any other words you want to say? Any last words?
No, just think last words. That's kind of a scary thing to say. It's like a death row.
Well, it-
No, just thank you for having me, man. Just allowing me to be transparent and share my heart, a little nuggets of my soul and why I am where I am today with collecting and just in playing, coming out and spinning, just sharing from my heart with everybody. So thank you for allowing me to have this.
Of course, man. I really appreciate what you do. Again, if you guys go on Mixcloud, look at like listen back to the old show that you did, and we'll probably do it again sometime for sure. But I definitely recommend that you guys listen to that. So many good songs on there. Sweet Velvet Dez is on there along with yourself, but
Yeah, that's
shows
the
are gonna be
homegirl.
coming soon. Yeah, shows will be coming soon. I'll be doing it again, and we'll be getting the studio back sometime, somehow, some way. So, but definitely appreciate you doing this, taking the time. Want to wish everybody a Merry
Merry
Christmas, Happy New
Christmas.
Year. If you
Yeah,
can make it out Sunday, definitely make it out there. It's going to be a really, really good time.
yeah,
Thank you
definitely.
so much for doing this.
Thank you.
All right, we're out, everybody. Thank you again. Peace.